Heavenly Planets. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Jaya Vraja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Jaya Vraja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Jaya Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladev, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hribo. Jayom Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivrajkacharya Stotra Sata Shri Shrimatidanda Goswami's Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Grantaraj Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Book Marathon 2025 Ki Jai Briyat Mridanga Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we're reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 24, text 335. Is it on the board or which one? But on the board is Shankar. But 36 is also purport. Okay, so then what do? We just go until 37, from 35, yeah? Shimurti Lakshanara Shalagram Lakshana Krishna Kshetra Yatra Krishna Murti Darashana. Translation. The characteristics of the deities should be discussed, as well as the characteristics of the Shalagram Shila. You should also discuss visiting the deities in the temple and touring holy places like Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dvaraka. Text number 336. Nama Mahima Nama Parade Dure Varajana Vaishnava Lakshana Seva Parada Kandana. Translation. You should glorify the holy name and explain that one must carefully give up offenses when chanting the holy name. You should also describe the symptoms of a Vaishnava and explain that one must give up or nullify all kinds of seva aparada, offenses in deity worship. Purport. The devotee should always be careful, very careful, not to commit the 10 offenses when chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. If a devotee very strictly follows the methods of deity worship, he will naturally and quickly become a pure Vaishnava. A pure Vaishnava has unflinching faith in the Lord, and he does not deviate at all. He is always engaged in perfect deity worship. One should also note the specific offenses against deity worship. These are mentioned in the Skanda Purana Avantikand, spoken by Vyasadeva himself. One should liquidate all kinds of offenses. The Shalagram Shila should be worshipped with tulsi, where a sufficient quantity of tulsi leaves are available. Worship of Shalagram Shila should be introduced in all ISKCON temples. Shalagram Shila is the form of the Lord's mercy. To worship the deity with the 64 items mentioned may be a difficult job, but the Lord has become so small that anyone in any temple can carefully handle deity worship simply by performing the same activities with the Shalagram Shila. There are 32 offenses to the deity that should be avoided. And we're going to hear them all. 1. One should not enter the temple in a vehicle. Shoes and slippers should be removed before entering the temple. That's good. Nobody came in a car today. That's auspicious. One should offer obeisances as soon as he sees the deity. 3. One should enter the temple after taking a bath. In other words, one should be very clean. 4. One should not offer obeisances to the Lord with one hand. This is something you might see devotees do quite often. So be mindful. Sometimes we have a bead bag in our hand, for example, and we do something like one-handed dandavat. It's not really proper. Then, 5. One should not circumambulate demigods before the deities. That's an interesting one. This is what they do in any other temple, really. We were just in this, we had one program. Some of you might have seen the pictures and images and videos from that, where we went to a Hindu temple in Durnton, which is like interesting because actually, so there's a Hindu temple there. They have like a zillion different demigods that they worship. They also have Swami Ayyappan. That's their main deity. It's a Tamil deity, or in South India they worship this form of, actually they say it's the son of Shiva and Mohini Murti. You know about this?
Hari and Har.
But Ayyappan is the son of them.
Yes. Mohini Avatar.
Do you know where this is coming from?
Means it's kind of from the text over there.
You sure? In which text?
I'm just not sure about that, but Mohini Avatar.
That's whatever I asked any of them, they also said, yeah, it's in the scriptures. And I asked which scripture, and nobody could say. But, so it's interesting. But anyway, the point is that they have many deities there. And we wanted to sell Bhagavad Gita. It was the day before Gita Jayanti. And we just arrived at like 7:30 or 8, I think. And they were about to perform puja. And, for us, puja means like 20 minutes. And they said, yeah, it's going to be 45 minutes. But then it turned out to be 2 hours. And we were sitting there patiently waiting. But afterwards, actually, quite a few Gitas were taken. And also, the head priest, Murli Prabhu, is a very nice person. He's, I think his mother is a Vaishnav, and his father is a Shaivite, something like this. So he has both sides. He's this kind of ba for both Shiva and Krishna also. And so he took the Bhagavatam. He was very happy. But there, what they do is, it's part of the worship, they do parikram. So they do circumambulate the deities before, or the demigods before Krishna also, who is there in the form. So, as we hear from Rupa Goswami, we should not do that. Number 6, one should not spread his legs before the deity. That's also something that you can notice that we shouldn't do. We shouldn't spread our legs in front, also not towards the speaker, but especially not towards the deities. Then number 7, one should not sit down before the deity with his legs crossed, nor should one touch his legs with his hands. So, should not sit down with his legs crossed. I don't know what that exactly means. Like, how does it mean crossed? This is what we always do. But then one should not touch his legs with his hands, since it's considered actually that the lower part down the waist is impure. So if we touch the legs with our hands, it means that we actually make them dirty in one sense. And that's something I learned in deity worship. So when you're on the altar, You shouldn't touch your dhoti. As soon as you touch your dhoti, you do achman, you purify your hands again. Then, number 8, one should not lie down before the deity. That's pretty clear. Then, number 9, one should not eat before the deity. That's why, for example, today on Sunday feast, we usually close the altar. Always we close the altar. And if you ever happen to see that devotees are eating in front, then you should close the curtains so that the deities don't have to see us eat. And then 10, one should not speak lies before the deity. Number 11, one should not speak very loudly before the deity. Number 12, one should not talk nonsense before the deity. In general, we should not talk nonsense. And 13, one should not cry before the deity. That's also interesting. So in one sense, we should cry, but then we should also not cry. Meaning we should not make a show of crying, I believe. That's the point. I think even Lord Chaitanya himself, he was crying in front of Jagannath also, and I believe that's okay if it's not a make show. And of course, even more important than external tears are the tears inside the heart, that we really cry from the heart. And that's a general thing that we can apply in our life, in our devotional life. That crying doesn't only mean crying with tears. That's just an external expression, but more importantly is that we really cry from the heart. And often that might be different, from what is visible. You can see sometimes, right, when crying is usually a sign either a material plane of sadness, and it can also be happiness, but on a higher plane, it would be one of ecstasy, right? Devotees on higher stages, they cry because of ecstasy. But often we cannot see who is in ecstasy and who is not. Like with Prabhupada, there's this famous example when they asked Prabhupada, we have this passport picture of Prabhupada also. I don't know actually if it's the original passport even. I don't believe so. That would be far out. But in the Prabhupada Museum, we have this passport of Prabhupada with a picture. And there he looks very, very grave. And so in the beginning years, the devotees saw this picture of his and they asked Prabhupada, why you look so sad here? What happened? And Prabhupada said, actually this day, when I took this picture, this was my greatest ecstasy. Because he knew that now he will get his passport, he will go cross the ocean, fulfill the desire of his spiritual master. And therefore this was his deepest ecstasy. And so from our perspective, it might seem, he was sad or something. But actually, inside he felt the greatest ecstasy. So we should not judge by the externals. Also, if somebody is crying before the deities, we cannot necessarily say that they're in ecstasy or they're not. But in general, one should not cry before the deity. Then, 14, one should not deal with others before the deity. 15, one should not utter harsh words before the deity. 16, one should not cover himself with a blanket. And number 17, one should not talk enviously of others before the deity. 18, one should not praise others before the deity. 19, one should not use slang before the deity. That's also interesting. 20, one should not pass air before the deity. 21, one should not neglect the 64 items of deity worship. That's what Prabhupada was saying before, that Prabhupada says here, to worship the deity with 64 items mentioned may be a difficult job, but the Lord has become so small that anyone in any temple can handle carefully deity worship simply by performing the same activities with the Shalagram Shila. So this small form of the Lord really allows the devotees to perform a very opulent abhishek or puja of Krishna with the 64 items that are prescribed in the scriptures. Then, one should not eat anything not offered to the deity. This is an interesting and important thing, actually, that I came to notice, only when I went to New York. There's the original temple, now they got it back. The first temple in, 26 2nd Avenue, New York. And there they now renovated the room as it was when Prabhupada first came. It's really, really beautiful. like it's a kind of museum type thing. It's a very small room in general, and now they put everything as it was. So they hung the same pictures. They have the Yasasan where Prabhupada used to sit, and they also have a small note that Prabhupada put there. Actually, on what is the bathroom? There's a bathroom just next to the Vyasasan, basically. So there, on this note, it says, Prabhupada instructs his disciples or his soon-to-be disciples what they should do and what they should not do. Of course, there is no meat eating, no intoxication, and he lists a few other things, chanting 16 rounds, and there's like 7, 8 things, and amongst them, so this was kind of an elementary rule and regulation that Prabhupada set up in the beginning, is that one should not eat anything outside the temple or anything that is not Krishna Prasadam. I don't know exactly how it's phrased, but making this point very clear that actually, sometimes we become a little bit loose as devotees, especially if we live outside the temple. We go to the shop, we buy something like a bagel, let's say, I don't know, donut, and we just offer it to Krishna, and we think now it's prasadam. And there's a whole discussion about that, but if we take this statement of Prabhupada very seriously, then Prabhupada definitely didn't want his disciples to eat outside, to eat things that are prepared by non-devotees. That's the point. Because, and that's a fact, the consciousness of the cook, it goes into the food, and therefore it influences us also. And there's some devotees, like in ISKCON Atlanta, or actually it's not, it's Krishna Life Atlanta, where I was, where there are all these Farah book distributors led by Mahotsav Prabhu, who are pulverizing all the records and like that, giving out loads of Srimad Bhagavatam sets. They're very, very strict about this. And Mahotsav Prabhu, he's really making it a point to teach this to all the devotees, that these karmic grains, as we call it, they do have an impact on our consciousness. And if we really want to be Krishna conscious, if we want to go for the long haul, if we really want to go to Krishna back in this lifetime, we should be very, very careful to avoid any kind of intake which is not offered to the deity, any kind of food stuffs that are not offered to the deities. And yeah, Mahotsav Prabhu is quite intense about that. So anyway, interesting point. One should not eat anything not offered to the deity. 23. One should not neglect offering seasonal fruits as soon as they are available. 24. One should always offer fresh, untouched fruit to the deity. 25. One should not sit with his back toward the deity. Actually, and all these things, okay, they apply to the deities, but we also should always have in mind Prabhupada's Murti. He's basically, as the representative of the deities, also to be treated in this way, according to all these things. So we should also not have our back towards Prabhupada, and also not to Tulsi Devi, for example. Which, for example, in the Japat period, when we have 2 Tulsis, one here, one there, then sometimes the Prabhus, they have their back towards Tulsi Devi there. So it's very subtle things, but it's good to keep in mind in order to not commit offenses and become very, very careful in our dealings with sacred items and personalities. 26. One should not offer obeisances to others before the deity. That's also always a point, a controversy, like now a sannyasi walks in, the curtains are open, what should we do? Should we pay our obeisances or should we not? I will not give the final conclusion, but in general, it is not an offense that if like a sannyasi comes in, that you have to bow down in front of the deities. According to this statements by Rupa Goswami, you actually shouldn't. Yes, Akila.
We also do Guru Puja before the deity, and we offer obeisances to Prabhupada.
That's true. Mm-hmm. Is it different if it's about the deceased Vaishnava and the living sadhu? Do you know? Like.
I don't know, only that you offer obeisances with the left side to the
Right.
Vaishnava who departed, and with the right side to the Vaishnava who is taking his book.
Right. Yeah, that's one thing that you can also remember. I also made this mistake a few times, that if you're in front of your spiritual master or senior Vaishnava, then you shouldn't pay your obeisances with your left side to them. Yeah, like we do with Prabhupada, right? When we bow before Prabhupada, we bow with left side towards Prabhupada. But if somebody is still living, then you do pay obeisance with the right side of your body. So in that sense, if somebody knows the culture in India or something, then they will be rather offended if you pay your obeisance with the left side, basically saying you're dead. So just, these are very subtle things, and of course we should not get hung up in them, but at the same time, as we progress on our spiritual path, we should become very careful in dealings with Krishna and his devotees and services, that we do the best to our ability to avoid offenses. Okay, and then 27, one should not sit near the deity without taking the spiritual master's permission. That's also very interesting. So that's why when we go in the altar, we always pray to Srila Prabhupada, to our spiritual masters, that we may perform the service on their behalf, under their guidance, and we don't just walk in and start, doing whatever. Then, 28, one should not be proud to hear himself praised before the deity. Then 29, one should not blaspheme the demigods, is also. So that's interesting, Sometimes we have this tendency in ISKCON that we think, okay, so these are just demigods and this is Krishna, so who cares about the demigods? But no, they're very important servants of Krishna. And actually the second offense, right, what's the second offense?
Consider the names of
Demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be, or independent of the names of Lord Krishna. Yeah. But also, if you take the Sanskrit, you can interpret it differently. And then it says that, if you think the names of Shiva and Vishnu are different from each other, literally, it speaks about just the name of Vishnu and Shiva. Prabhupada then made it very clear, for us, and that's what we follow generally, that we should not take them to be equal. But at the same time, they're also non-different in one sense. It's like the same thing with yogurt and milk, that Shiva is like the yogurt, Vishnu is like the milk. So yogurt comes from milk, Shiva comes from Vishnu, but at the same time, yogurt is still milk in one sense, And also, milk doesn't come from yogurt. So it's not the other way around. It's not that Vishnu comes from Shiva. That's clear, but at the same time, they're like non-different. So we should not be dismissive of the demigods. We should respect them very much and pay our obeisances in our minds at least. Then, 30, one should not be unkind to others before the deities. And 31, one should observe all festivals in the temple. And 32, one should not fight or quarrel before the deity. So this is the purport to 36. Now we come into 37, and we can repeat together. Shankha Jala Gandha Pushpa Dupadi Lakshana. Shankha Jala Gandha Pushpa Dupadi Lakshana. Japa Stuti Parikrama Dandavatvandana. Japa Stuti Parikrama Dandavatvandana. Shankajala Gandha Pushpadu Padi Lakshana. Japa Stuti Parikrama Dandavatvandana. Shankajala Gandha Pushpadu Padi Lakshana. Thank you. So word by word, Shankha, of a conch shell. Jala, of water. Gandha, of incense or scents. Pushpa, of flowers. Dhupa adi, of incense and so on. Lakshana, the characteristics. Japa, murmuring. Stuti, offering prayers. Parikrama, circumambulation. Dandavat, offering obeisances. Vandana, offering prayers. Translation. The items of worship such as water, conch shell, flowers, incense, and lamp should be described. You should also mention chanting softly, offering prayers, circumambulating, and offering obeisances. All these should be carefully described. Purport. All these are mentioned in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. The 8th Vilas of that book should be consulted as far as possible. Anybody knows the 8th Vilas of Hari Bhakti Vilas? Anybody read Hari Bhakti Vilas? Me neither. Maybe we should read. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Jutapada Kamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitangscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Shivaram Swami Namine. Okay, so obviously we're in the description of how Srila Sanatana Goswami should write Hari Bhakti Vilasa, which will be the guidebook for all the devotees of the future. So for us, basically. And in this book, as we can see, there is so many different aspects that are described. And before, it was especially explained that one should that Sanatana Goswami should glorify the holy name, and explain that one must carefully give up offenses while chanting. So an important part of the Hari Bhakti Vilas is about the aparadas, different kind of offenses one can commit in practicing pure devotional service. And therefore we should be very careful to avoid these offenses in our day-to-day habits. We speak about the 10 offenses of against the holy names. We recite them on Saturdays, right? Usually, so yesterday, once a week. If you don't know them by heart, learn them by heart. You know them, Makar? 10 offenses in Russian, maybe. You have to learn also. And because if we don't know what they are, then it basically means we're already committing them. We cannot avoid them, really. They say in German, Unwissenheit schützt vor Strafe nicht. I don't know how you say in English, like ignorance.
It's not excuse, no excuse.
It's no excuse. It's very simple. Yeah. Ignorance does not prevent you from being punished if you do wrong. Like if there's a red light and you drive over because you thought red means green, then you can go, and some policeman is there, he will not excuse you, he will give you a fine, and they're very expensive in Switzerland. Personal experience. So, the same way, we should be very careful to not commit offenses, and first, this starts with knowing what the offenses are. I think one offense is to throw around. So, since I didn't get much time to prepare, or I didn't prepare anything at all, we can speak a little bit of how this theme fits into performing our devotional service. And especially for me, in the past month or so, past 27 days exactly, actually, we've been distributing books all over Switzerland on a daily basis, going out every day non-stop for the past 27 days, 8-10 hours or whatever. Maybe not 10 actually, we should do more. But we can see in any kind of devotional service that there's a tendency to become a little bit lenient, a little bit complacent, and we just do things mechanically. And Sankirtan, or book distribution, the distribution of Srila Prabhupada's books, is a very good training field of how to avoid that. Because on the streets out there, or in interactions with others, you get an immediate feedback if you're offensive, if you're becoming complacent, because what happens is that the people, they react to you in the same way. So, if you are offending others, they will offend you. I think any book distributor might have had this experience where we're out and books are maybe not going, or in general we're not so inspired, and then we start to let the frustration out on others, and Krishna is not happy about that, and he will make us feel that way. I'm just thinking about an example. The longer you practice book distribution also, the more you become tolerant, and you just go on even though you're not inspired, or there's certain frustration in you. That's in general the motto, by the way, if you're ever out on book distribution. It's I read in Naveen Niraprabhu's book that this was coined by Rohini Sutta Prabhu actually, and it is einfach weitermachen. Just continue. That's the mantra for all the book distributors. Whatever happens, just continue. And it's one for our whole life, and in devotional service in general. There might be periods where we feel uninspired or whatever. So then there's two aspects. There's this just continue, we should go on. But then there's also ABS, maybe you've heard of that one, from Vaisheshika Prabhu, which means, you have an idea? ABS, what does it stand for? It just means always better service. That's his motto. So it seems to be a little contradictory. The one side is just go on, just continue the way you're doing, and the other is always try to improve what you're doing. So I think both together, or the first one, understood in that light, that's how we should continue. When we say just continue, we just push on, and then we also intend to make it better. So anyway, on the streets, you're forced to become tolerant, you're forced to become humble, and you're forced to refine yourself. So I think that's the point that is brought out here in all these descriptions, that we have to become more and more conscious about how we are performing our devotional service, how we're living our life in the first place, but then especially how we're performing our devotional service. In a sense that, are we really serving Krishna? Are we trying to enjoy ourselves? Is it really free of karma and gyan? Why do we do what we're doing? Basically, boiling down to this. Why are we doing what we're doing? And on the streets, this is a very prevalent topic, because people, they will give you that feedback. Once I was in Winterthur, and I was dressed like this, distributing books. And it's very interesting how Krishna, he uses like everybody to teach you, So I was there, and I felt like, nothing was really happening, books were not going out, and at one point I was thinking, why am I doing this? Am I really convinced that I'm, serving Krishna, or am I just trying, to bypass something, or what is really going on, And then there were some bums, like they were just hanging around, drinking, and you would think these are like the least, the persons that you should listen to the least. But at that time, it really hit me, because this one guy, he was just looking at me. They were observing me for a little bit, and then when I walked a little bit closer, he was just saying, like, screaming at me, so, "Hey, what are you doing, man? You're just standing around. Why are you not doing something? What are you anyway, What are you trying to be? You're a monk or something? Don't joke me. Don't tell me jokes. You're not a monk. Look at you. What are you?" He was really insulting me like anything, He was going at it, and I was just standing there. I couldn't really, because I was anyway not very inspired. Then it didn't really help me to get more inspired, and I was just tolerating, trying to, why is this happening? And then he walked away, and I was like, there. Oh my God, what just happened? Why is Krishna telling me this? And then, in these kind of moments is where you're forced to introspect. Sometimes we're in the temple and things are just going and you just continue. But on the streets, it's like in your face interactions of the people, and they tell you what they think. And of course, sometimes it's just their mind. And you can also tell if somebody's just, angry themselves, and that's why they let it out on you. But sometimes you can also feel that Krishna wants to tell you something. And the more we refine ourselves, the more we become aware, the more we actually feel in our heart. It's not a mental thing, it's not that what they say so much, but it's the mood that they carry, or that touches your heart somewhere. And then okay, I have to change something, I have to, do something about this. So in that situation, I took a break. I read some inspirational messages that my Guru Maharaj had sent, and then I understood again, that's why I'm doing it. It's to please my spiritual masters, to please Srila Prabhupada, is to please the Guru Parampara. And I'm not, this body, in a bigger vision, I'm not a brahmachari, I'm not this or that. I'm just a soul trying to render service to Krishna. And that's how I should perform my devotional service. And interestingly, I did that, I came back, and then books were just going like anything. It's these little changes sometimes, just mental, and you become at ease with yourself again, you understand again why you're doing this, and things are flowing again. So in this way, if we become more refined on book distribution, for example, or in our devotional service, then that's when we can actually make progress in devotional life. And I'm not sure how to connect it to these stories here, or the topic of deity worship so much. or giving up offenses. But maybe we can just share one or two book distribution stories. It's interesting how when you're doing book distribution for such a long time, then the days begin to, combine, and you don't know when what really happened because you meet so many people out there, so many stories. And one thing that really is kind of what I realized this marathon more than ever is how much people are suffering out there and how much our society is totally out of balance. It's crazy, and it's ever increasing, like literally every day I speak to at least 5 or more people that had a burnout, that are in depression, that really struggle, just to function in this world. Yesterday I talked with one woman, a mother, and she told me that for the past 5 weeks she just sleeps 1 hour a day. She cannot sleep, she's always like full on, and she's lying in bed and she cannot sleep, and like 1 hour she's sleeping, and she's just saying she's so stressed out, and nothing helps, and she doesn't know what to do. She's studying, she has her own business, she has 3 kids, she's just going through the divorce. It's just like, what an existence. And she took the books very happily, and I could see, there's in these moments is when people are really trying to understand that, how can I actually become happy? What's the use of living like this? One lady the other day in Zug what was that, on Thursday, I believe. It was kind of late, it was like 6:45, and I tried to reach my quota that day, that many books I wanted to distribute, and I had just 2 more left. I think 2 more, yeah. So I went to one guy and I thought, he is it. He was really nice and kind, and then we had a good exchange, and then his friend came, and his friend was like, come, we have to go, let's go. And he was like, okay, maybe next time, and he ran away, and I was like, no, why, Krishna, what do you think? But then I walked to the next person, and I understood, this is why this happened. This is why this guy couldn't take the books, so that this person could take the books. She was maybe like 25 or so, maybe a little older. And I stopped her, and I could see she was disturbed. She was like dressed very nicely. She has like business clothes, and you could tell she was, well off. She was working a good job probably. And then she revealed that she's working in finance and this and that. But that was, I asked her, so, I'm a monk with these books. Who are you? What are you doing like in life? And she's like, she's working in finance. And she tried to continue speaking, but then she just broke down. She just started crying. And I rarely seen somebody cry like this. She was just pouring. She couldn't stop. And she became really embarrassed. So she says, I'm so sorry. I don't want to cry. I just cannot. And I was like, overwhelmed a little bit, didn't know what to do. But then I just told her that it's okay, it's fine. And she's not this body. At the end of the day, all these things in life, they happen. But we have to understand that in this material world, we will never be completely happy. So we just have to give up this expectancy. And she said, yes, you're right. And you could just see she was totally opening up, and like she was really ready to receive something more deep that could solve this problem, the problem that she was in. Then I gave her the books. We spoke a little bit about meditation, and she kind of, started crying again and stopped, and like it was really intense. But she got really fired up, and she was really, then I said, about meditation. She said, yeah, that's what I need. And I told her about mantra, that mantra is really, really powerful, and she accepted that. And then I mentioned Krishna somehow or other, and then she said, oh, you're from the Krishnas? Are you these guys that were down at the lake with these carts? And I said, yeah, that's us. And she said, oh, I saw that. It was so beautiful. And for the first time in this discussion, that was like maybe 2 or 3 minutes, she actually smiled. She had like a broad smile, and she was really like, that was so beautiful how you were there and everybody was dancing. And then I got some fruits. Yeah, but that was so amazing. And she was really like inspired, you could tell. And then I said, wow, okay, beautiful. Yeah, we have a temple, come. And she's like, yeah, I will definitely come. And thank you so much for these books. And she was really like, you could see how something in her just clicked and gave her that release that she so desperately needed. And she said, actually I'm thinking, today I actually realized that I think I'm in a burnout. That I cannot, it must be a burnout, I don't know. Because I'm just like, I cannot continue. I have no energy left, and I'm just like, whew. And so then, in the end, I gave her the flyer of our temple, and she said, "Oh, I got this flyer at the lake also, exactly this. Wow, this is amazing, thank you so much. I mean, if that's not a sign, then what is?" And I said, "Yes, this is Krishna speaking to you. Come, please come to the temple." And she said, "Yeah, she will definitely come." And she had to go. But these are these moments where on the streets, that Krishna is arranging everything. Every situation, he sends the people, he's directing the people, and he's directing us as those who carry Krishna's mercy in the form of these books to give it to them. And the more, I just told yesterday, I told to Benza Prabhu this same thing, that the more we refine our consciousness, again, like if we become more refined also in observing ourselves, observing the world, we will see how Krishna is behind everything. And that's what Krishna consciousness means, right? To see Krishna everywhere and all the time. Not just, when we chant or when we do this or that, but all the time we see Krishna is directing the moving of all the living entities. And we are so fortunate to be practicing this process of how to become servant, how to become aligned with being moved by Krishna. Not that we move on our own strength, but that we understand we are just his instruments. And it's the most beautiful feeling that one can experience in this world. And therefore, let us try to, really take this to heart, take these instructions of Mahaprabhu to heart, to avoid offenses, be very careful in our dealings with the deities, with the Vaishnavas, with our services. And in this way, let us see Krishna more and more in everything we're doing. I think that's the essence of what we try to achieve while performing devotional service. So just a few thoughts. I think we can finish here. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Akila Prabhu ki jai. Yes.
I have one question. Yeah?
Okay.
I saw one documentary about Mahotsav Prabhu, and what I noted down, he said, it's not what you say, it's what you pray. Can you say something about this?
Yeah. I mean, definitely it's something he also tried to inculcate in me. I was there for 1 week only, and I spent like a weekend with him and a few days more. But again, if you come to this point of understanding that, we have to be very conscious of where we are at, then we also understand it's not what we say to people, right? They don't take the books because they think, this is, nobody's out there looking for a Krishna conscious book, or even a book about meditation. Is very few people. But 80% of the people, they take the books because they feel good. They feel something is different with this person who's giving me this book. Something is different about these books. There's a certain energy with it. And so, if the devotee is in the right consciousness, if he prays to Krishna, if he's in this connection, then this connection comes through and it touches other people. Like Manu was saying, people, they can feel that. And what they then do is, even sometimes you can see, they try to touch you, they try to, stay with you, they don't want to leave, like this. It's very interesting, because they can feel this person, something is different. And even though you might feel like, I'm just doing what I'm doing, but the people, they wow, you're so special. Why are you so like this? Or, And this is just because we're praying. We're trying to be in this connection. So people can feel this. And therefore, they take the books not because of their intellect. If we, I always try. I'm coming from that perspective. Okay, I have to convince them. I have to give good arguments like this. But it's all material. But what really convinces them is if they can feel that you're a well-wisher, that you actually want them, have something good for them, and that's why you're doing this. You don't want the money. You don't want that they, that you can manipulate them or this and that. They just feel that you are trying to give them something of value. You want to give. You don't want to take. And that they can feel, and therefore they take the books. So that's, I think, what Mahotsa Prabhu was saying. Once I was with him, and we went to some supermarket, and he kind of guided me, okay, go to this person. And I did, and then I failed a few times to distribute the book. And he said, okay, watch me. And he just went to this lady, like Hispanic lady, and he said, hey, ¿qué tal? Just some words in Spanish. Look, books for you, take. And she's like, oh, really? How much? Yeah, just give, And she gave, and that was it, That's the interaction. But people can just feel that this person, he's like, he's so enthused about this, and he's in such a good spirit of care and love. They are touched by this, and that's why they take the books. Once I showed this video to a few of you that we were on this convention, and we left the convention, and Mahotsa Prabhu is really just always thinking about distributing Bhagavatam sets. We went to the supermarket to buy some milk, and in the meantime he distributed Bhagavatam set. One to an Indian guy. The Indian guy was, and I could see, we walked into the store, Mahotsa Prabhu saw this person, and he just waved at him. And this person, he stopped in his tracks. He wanted to walk forward, but he looked back quick, and Mahotsa just waved at him. And this person turned around immediately. He was like 20 meters apart, just came back, and he went away with the Bhagavatam. Or same thing that we were leaving this convention, and there was a car parked on the side with a lady inside. And Mahotsa said, stop. And he went out, and he told the lady to come. He went to the back of the truck, showed her the Bhagavatam. This lady didn't speak a word English. She just spoke Spanish, and Mahotsa Prabhu doesn't speak Spanish either. So he's just like with hands and feet, trying to tell her what Bhagavatam is, and she's like, oh, I don't know if no sé, I don't know. I said, no, just take it. And then he just starts chanting, like in ecstasy. It's just like Hare Krishna, and the lady picks up, she's and she goes crazy, and she takes the Bhagavatam, gives $300, like that. Just like, and you cannot explain, there's no material explanation how this happens. It's just because he's in this state and he's in this ecstasy, people are catching on to this, they get absorbed in this energy, and they just go with the Bhagavatam. And that's what also happens with us in smaller ways. But what happened in the past, how they distributed so many books, like people just walked away with stacks of books like this. Harinamananda, Naveen Nirada Prabhu's. Why? Because they got so absorbed in this energy that they could feel this person is different and he's carrying something different. So yeah, that's why it's what we pray, right? It's our consciousness that people can feel that. And therefore we have to become Krishna conscious, and then they will also catch on to that. So it starts with us trying to go there. Yeah, a few thoughts. Okay. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.